Hi class. Now that we've finished our unit on narrative writing, I think it's very important that we move on to descriptive writing. And so the first thing that I really want to emphasize for you about writing descriptively is the concept of painting pictures with words, or something we call showing versus telling. A telling sentence lacks description and detail. It is mostly absent of vivid verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. Telling sentences are boring and leave little impression on the reader. When I read a telling sentence, I am usually left with lots of questions. I wonder who and how and why and where and when. I wonder so much about this short, small, very nondescript sentence that I have just read. An example of a telling sentence would be, the fireman rescued the child. There's nothing wrong with this sentence grammatically. We have a subject and a verb, and we have a direct object. But after I'm finished reading this sentence, I wonder about the fireman. He's obviously a man. Is he young? Is he old? Is he tired? Is he hurt? Is this fireman experienced? Was this the fireman's last day on the job or the first day on the job? By rescued, does that mean that the child is still alive? Does that mean that the child is well, not well? What does the child look like in the firefighter's arms? Is the child sick, unconscious, conscious, smiling, reaching for his mom? His mom? Is the child a he? Is the child a she? And the questions can go on. What happens with a telling sentence is we leave way too much for our reader, and our reader probably won't fill in those blanks. So, to avoid telling dull sentences that do not give any information to us, we should try a technique called showing. A showing sentence uses deliberately and purposefully chosen adjectives, verbs, and adverbs. Now, you may have only thought that adjectives were descriptive, but verbs can be very descriptive as well, and adverbs especially. Imagery is also important to use so that the reader can relate to the writing. What is imagery? Because it sounds like something I can see, but imagery is much more than that. Imagery is the use of the five senses in your writing. What did you hear? Or what did your character hear? If you're writing in first person, what did you hear? If you're writing in first person, what did you taste during this scenario? What did you smell, touch, or see? If you're writing about someone else, what did they experience? We all have this in common, the use of the senses. That is how we connect as human beings. Even if, for some reason, we are devoid of one of these senses, we have the others to use. And so we connect this way, and we gain reader interest this way. An example of a showing sentence using the fireman rescued the child. Let's now make this a showing sentence. Through the dark, heavy smoke cloud, an exhausted, injured fireman cradled the limp baby girl in his arms. Think for a moment about our first telling sentence and now our much improved showing sentence. Which would you rather read? Which caught your attention? Which would you rather be the writer of? I am sure that you answered this sentence over and over again to those questions. So let's practice. Imagine that for our class, I asked you to write about a former boss. Now listen, most of us have all had a boss. I've had a lot of great bosses, and I have had a boss or two that I disliked. So I'd have to think about which one I would want to write about. Then you decide to write about your old boss, and your boss's name is Sam True. On a first attempt, when I asked you to write about your boss, you wrote, he was a very unpleasant person. Sam True was not what I would call an honest person with anyone. His family didn't seem to care for him, and I didn't like much to look at him. He wasn't very handsome. As a boss, he left a great deal to be desired. His actions with his customers defied the laws of good business, and it was hard to see why they returned, except that he allowed them to charge things, and they lived beyond their means mostly. So Sam True is the boss. I can definitely get a sense of negativity here. But after reading this, I do wonder a lot about Sam. What does an unpleasant person mean? How is Sam unpleasant? How is Sam not an honest person? In fact, not an honest person, or not what I would call an honest person, is a very wordy way to say something else more specific. I see his family didn't like him, and the writer says that he didn't like to look at him. Why? He wasn't very handsome. What does that mean? What was it about him that wasn't handsome? He left a great deal to be desired. Again, what does that mean? These are very general, non-specific terms. And so, taking some of the questions that I just said out loud as I was reading, I would apply those to your writing. Then you would go off and try to answer some of those questions. My final comment on your paper might be something like, use better word choice. Show, don't tell. Well, maybe you still weren't quite sure what I meant by word choice. So on a second attempt, and thinking more about Sam True, you come back with this. Right away, I'm worried because it seems that you have written less words. Now, more is not always better, but in this case, when it comes to descriptive writing, usually more means that we've spent more time writing and describing. Let's take a look at what you came up with when I said better word choice. Sam True was very unpleasant. He did not have a reputation for honesty, and he was not physically attractive. He was an inadequate employer, and the way he treated his customers indicated he was not an effective businessman. The only advantage his business had was that he offered credit to his customers. I don't know about you, but I'm thinking now that this is not much of an improvement. Not only that, I think it actually is not as good as the first paragraph, which sometimes happens on a second draft. When I said better word choice, maybe you thought I meant bigger words, or that I wanted you to sound more intelligent, have higher vocabulary level. But that's not what I meant. And so you swapped out words for reputation for honesty. What used to be there was not very honest. Before you said he was not handsome, now you said he is not physically attractive. The result is the same. I don't know why he's not physically attractive, and I can't see Sam True. In fact, at this point I'm wondering, is this a business office? What kind of job does Sam True have? Is he a scientist? No, because he has customers. Is he an insurance salesman? He offers them credit, so maybe it's not insurance. Does he sell beer and alcohol? What kind of business does he run? I don't even know that. So now this time around, I say, go back. Tell me what he looks like. Tell me how he smells. Tell me what you tasted where you worked. Tell me what you felt there. Was there anything that you could describe to me and your tactile senses? Tell me what you heard there. This might take some time. But on a third draft, wow, this is a much longer paragraph. So let's take a look at this. Looks like you use your sensory images and specific details. Sam True ate cigars. Whoa, what a first sentence. What an image. He'd roll his thick lips back from his teeth, mean little teeth, yellow and sharp, and you'd see them grind away at the wet rope of tobacco. That was the first thing I noticed when I went to work for him, the way he chewed his cigars. After a week in Sam True's butcher shop, I realized he treated his customers the way he treated his cigars. He gave everyone credit, and once he got his teeth into them, he ground away at the self-respect. When Jack Smith's new widow came in with their 3 boys and asked for "Pound a hamburger, please, I guess on credit," I watched Sam raise his lips to receive a new cigar and saw his teeth snap down. I knew she would get the hamburger, and Sam would get his bite out of her pride. Sam True is a butcher? All along I had no idea Sam True was a butcher. So that one little detail changed everything for me. A lot of this paragraph focuses on his cigars, which is just wonderful. The way he holds them in his mouth, the way he chews them between his teeth, the way he sucks on them, they get wet. We see his teeth. This doesn't just say he was not handsome to look at. This says he has little teeth, yellow and sharp, and that he would chew people up, just like he chewed up his cigars. The effect is captivating and vivid. Think again. Would you rather read paragraph 1, paragraph 2, or paragraph 3? I love paragraph 3.